agree with Stephen A. that Lamar Jackson choked?
Absolutely not. I mean, this is what Stephen A. said. It's doing what you're accustomed to doing, and all these. They didn't do anything like they were accustomed to doing, and that ain't on Lamar. They ran the ball 6 times from their running backs. 6. By the way, Kansas City played nickel or dime, which means 5 little guys or 6 little guys, like dang near 50 plays of the game. And what did they do? They drop back and try to become a pocket passing team for the entire game. This was absolute ludicrous. Whatever game plan we thought we had in Baltimore, put it in the trash, burn it, don't ever look at it again, because it was god-awful. And listen, did Lamar play? I'm not here to apologize or be an apologist for Lamar Jackson. He didn't play well. He was inaccurate. You could tell he was frustrated. He forced the interception, can't have the strip sack, got to step up in all those things. But, man, let's at least be real about the Ravens didn't do anything of we were accustomed to doing. They had the #1 rushing attack, which includes Lamar, and they decided we're not going to do that. We're going to make this game plan all about something we never do, and then expect something different to occur. By the way, playing into the strength of the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know how many times I've heard Louis Riddick get on this show or other shows about how fast Kansas City is, team speed, all the things that they have. And we're going to let them play with 6 DBs and not run straight at them. If we're the Baltimore Ravens, we're going to do what we don't do best and try to play to the strengths of our opponent. I didn't understand it. As a team, I would accept this as a choke job. At putting it on one player and acting like, could he have done something different? He didn't play good. They didn't play good. But my God, at least be real about and put it in context of how bad what they asked him to do really was.
That's not fair. And I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you, and I'm going to tell you why it's not fair, Jeff Saturday, because we were asked a question directly about Lamar. Nobody's letting the rest of the Baltimore Ravens off the hook. I didn't let them off the hook. Shannon didn't let them off the hook. Dan Orlovsky didn't let them off the hook. Ryan Clark most certainly didn't let them off the hook. And you saw what Ryan Clark had to say, because I saw you on Get Up watching what Lamar Jackson had to say. I am in no way saying that you're wrong in terms of the totality of the collapse of the Baltimore Ravens. Monken, what the hell were you doing? Why do you don't run the football more? Especially like you put it 5 deep, 6 deep. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You make sure you run the football down their throat, especially when you got Gus Edwards, who's capable of running the football. And Lamar Jackson needed to look to run the football a bit more because he knew what they had in their secondary.
That's right.
And if you penetrate the initial line of defense, you get in the open field, you can make some things happen, as he made on one particular run. We get all of that. But in the end, what it comes down to, Jeff, in all seriousness, is this. I take no joy in saying this. I think Lamar Jackson's a superstar. I think he deserves to be the league MVP. I got a lot of love for him. But we got to call it like we see it. He walked into that game tight. He walked into that game looking nervous. You had people literally commenting from opening tap at how poised, obviously, Patrick Mahomes looked compared to Lamar Jackson. So, in other words, what I'm saying to you is this. This is your moment. You've been in the league for 6 years. You're a league MVP. You're en route to winning the second league MVP. This is a man we're talking about here, Lamar Jackson, one of 6 quarterbacks since the 1970 merger, who's won at least 70% of his regular season starts. The other guys who've done it have all won Super Bowl championships except for him. He hasn't been to a Super Bowl. This was his first time to an AFC Championship game. So again, as the moment elevates, palms get sweaty, backsides get tight, as they say, and we find out who are the people who are ready. Again, when we look at Lamar Jackson, we're not taking away from anything in terms of his capabilities, his star status, what he can do on a week-in, week-out basis or whatever. But as Shannon Sharpe has repeatedly stated, along with our other football analysts, including yourself, Jeff Saturday, we talk about how what differentiates the great ones from the superstars, right?
Yeah.
Are those who embrace the moment. Because the moment calls for something more. And if not something more, at least something typical to what you normally show us. Now, if Lamar Jackson played like this during the regular season and he was a replica of that come postseason time, that's different. But when you play lights out, when you're mercurial, when you're superstar status, all right, and then all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes is on the other side of the field, and every little moment counts, and every mistake is paramount. When all of those things come into consideration and you don't show up, that is the definition of choking.
But you just said, if you looked in the season, the dude had 24. So he didn't light up the season. He didn't throw the ball all over the yard and score or whatever.
Combination.
Right?
Combination.
But he didn't just dominate. Like everybody was like, he's the for sure MVP. You know why they said that? Because against big games and big teams, he won them, right? He got the best team. You should freaking win them. But he himself, that whole MVP thing that everybody talked about, I was like, I don't think he deserved the MVP.
But when he went against the big teams, Jeff, he showed up in those games.
He did show up 100%. But my point is, what they were doing allowed him to do that. When you just say, we're not going to do what we do as a team, we're going to play something totally different, Lamar, go play it this style. At some point, you said Patrick Mahomes looked really comfortable. I saw the same thing. Lamar Jackson never looked comfortable. So if you're a coach, you go, hey, how do we get him comfortable? If we're going to run, they're going to blitz us and we're going to run all these deep routes, Lamar, pull it down and run it. Pull it down and run. But I'm saying, as a player, you have to get there, right? Andy Reid helps Mahomes find rhythm and find plays to make, right? Get it to your tight end. Get it this way. Get that way. There was none of that in this game. And so what I'm saying is I lived this with Peyton Manning, right? Like I lived the hate about he can't get it done. He can't win the big game. He can't do this. He plays down in the playoffs compared to his regular season. It's because most of the teams you're playing in the regular season, you are going to beat the brakes off of them. It is going to be tight. You aren't playing the Chiefs defense every week when you're in Baltimore. That's a really good defense. So it is going to be more difficult. You're not going to hang up those big numbers you do. But when you say it's all because of one guy, that's where I have an issue, right? Like Peyton Manning didn't deserve all the hate about he wasn't good enough and he didn't win it until he got it.
We didn't say it was all one guy.
But here's the thing, it's just Stephen A. Choke job from one guy.
It's not whether or not he deserved it, he got it. Shouldn't we ask Lamar what we ask of our other MVPs? Expectation, has Peyton Manning ever won a game in the playoffs in which the running game wasn't there? Of course, because that's what those guys get paid for, and that's why we look at them as great.
Unc, listen.
Yes.
You're the best guy in this business, you and Stephen A., obviously. So whenever you say something, everybody needs to listen. And I respect and appreciate your brain, your beautiful teeth, everything you got popping off. Love nightcap, love everything. But I think what you're saying about Brock Purdy is completely out of pocket. Let me tell you why. Because I've heard you say something like this before and many others. Brock Purdy's critics could watch Brock Purdy walk on water and saying it's because he couldn't swim. What Brock Purdy has done this entire year, in his second year in the NFL, second year, he's still living with a roommate, not married, no kids. He can barely afford rent because his salary is what it is in San Francisco. All year, he led the NFL in basically every single efficiency rating that you could possibly want. Third down, red zone, fourth down, yards per attempt, and they still call him a check down king. And then in the second half of the NFC Championship, not just a basic-ass regular season game, not the divisional round, not wild card, in the second half of the NFC Championship game, he did something that no quarterback has done in 30 years. He passed for 150 yards plus on 80% completion, had no turnovers, rushed for over 45 yards, average over 10 yards a carry. No quarterback has done that in the regular season or the postseason in one half in the last 3 decades. What Brock Purdy do? Well, in the biggest moments, played his best ball. He has it. He is a guy that if we were to judge him, we'd say, well, he kind of looks like an accountant, kind of a little bland. His pregame fits are a little bit like nerdy, a little bit. But when he gets on the field, he's an absolute dog. Much like pick 199 was Tom Brady, who'll be joining our show today at 12:10 Eastern. He has everything mentally to be a guy. He can put a ball in a keyhole, and when the moment calls for it, he delivers. I think you, Shannon, are obviously a big-brained human being, but the critics, I think, have just been judging him completely falsely all year, yourself included, Shannon.
Can I ask you a question? Jalen Hurts got to the Super Bowl. He finished second in the MVP voting. Did he silence his critics by getting to the Super Bowl?
I think last year he did. Then this year they came out without Shane Steichen and were much different. Now the critics are all the way back.
If you look at guys, there have been guys that Nick Foles didn't silence critics. Joe Flacco didn't silence critics. Trent Dilfer didn't silence critics. All I'm saying is that he did what I wanted him to do, P-Mac. I said I want to see him in a game in which he's behind by multiple scores, and I want to see where every throw matters, every possession matters. And in the last 2 weeks, Green Bay and in against the Lions, that happened. But he's not going to completely, the critics aren't going to completely go away unless he finishes this off. Because if he loses this game, what are they going to say, P-Mac? You know what they're going to say. See, I told you. He's going to have to finish it off. And like I said, yes, he silenced them temporarily. But until you get to it, Look at Lamar. Lamar's about to win his second MVP. Has he silenced any critics? He's been in the league 6 years.
Got loud. Yeah.
That's how it is, P-Mac. I'm not taking anything away from the young man, but we got to stop using he was the Mr. Irrelevant. Tom Brady was sixth round 199. But at some point in time, you're a football player, and where you got drafted is unimportant. Whether you're the first pick in the draft or you're the last pick in the draft, can you play football? Are you? And right now, Brock Purdy is a top quarterback in the National Football League. But I still believe that the critics will come back if he doesn't play well in the Super Bowl. But for 2 weeks, he should have silenced everyone.
Let me say this to y'all. A couple of things that we need to throw out there before I get into any of that. Tom Brady's coming on your show today, P-Mac.
12-10. That's no bull, Stephen A. 12-10.
Let me tell you something, because I had the pleasure of having him on my podcast, the Stephen A. Smith Show. Let me tell you something right now. Tom Brady, 7-time champion. That brother, Shannon Sharpe, Pat McAfee, remember I said this. When he get in that booth, he going to be a star. Wait till you see him. I'm just talking about listening to him talk football, the way he talks about football. We've talked about Tony Romo. Obviously, we've talked about others. We see the great Troy Aikman and what he brings to the table. Wait till Tom Brady get up in that booth. I'm telling y'all something right now. The brother's going to be special. I'm telling you. Mark my words. You heard it from here first. In that booth, he's going to be special. Now let me get to Brock Purdy. This is what I noticed, P-Mac. When you talk about putting all the criticism in bed, I'm going to agree with Shannon Sharpe in terms of how the criticism will return if he doesn't perform in the Super Bowl. But I also am going to give you love because you've been talking about Purdy for quite some time and talking about giving the credit where credit is due. I'm looking at this. This is him on Sunday, 20 of 31, 64.5% completion, 267 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 1 interception. All right. Second half, when they down 24-7, 13 of 16 passing, 81% completion, 174 of those yards, a TD pass, 49 rush yards. Here's the thing that stood out to me. Rushed the ball 3 times for 52 yards. Threw passes 3 or 4. This is under scrambling situations. Completed 3 or 4 passes. Ran the ball 3 times, 52 yards, each and every single one of them. The completions along with the runs were for first downs. When the clutch moment, when it was demanded, when you had to show up, that's when he showed up. You pointed out this in their game against Green Bay, Shannon. He did it again in the NFC Championship game, down 17, and Detroit bum rushing them, just beating them up, running the ball all over them. Came out in the second half, did his thing. Got to give love and credit where credit is due, as if he comes to Purdy. But in the end, if the Super Bowl arrives against Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes on that other side of the field, knowing that the mistakes that you make can cost you, because if anybody's capable of making you pay for it, it's Patrick Mahomes. If he shows up in that game, then the criticism will be put to bed, but not before.